The story of Enoch who walked with God, from Genesis 5, gets us thinking about our own connection to the divine and the choices we make. Subscribe now so you don't miss a single story. This ancient account highlights a human experience that feels just as relevant today. Welcome to New Pod. The story we're exploring today is found in the early chapters of Genesis, at the heart of the foundational accounts of humanity's beginnings. Before Enoch, Genesis introduces us to the first generations of people, their lives, and their destinies. This context is essential to understanding what makes the figure of Enoch so unique. These chapters trace a lineage, a succession of lives defined by birth, family, and death, establishing a pattern for human existence. In this narrative, each life is a link in a chain, and the underlying tension is that of human life set against time and the established order. The story of Enoch introduces a remarkable break in this pattern. Enoch appears in this genealogy as a key figure, the son of Jared and the father of Methuselah. Genesis chapter 5, verses 21 to 24, presents him with a notable distinction. While the other figures in this lineage are described by their age, their offspring, and their death, Enoch stands out. The text states that he lived 65 years and fathered Methuselah. But what comes next is what grabs our attention and marks the beginning of a unique story. The account doesn't focus on complex human motives, but on one fundamental action, his walk with God. This initial detail immediately sets the stage for a deep and constant relationship. The biblical text tells us that after Methuselah was born, Enoch walked with God for 300 years. This phrase, to walk with God, is key to understanding him. It suggests communion, a closeness, a life lived in harmony with God's will. This wasn't a one-time event, but a way of being, a constant connection. During these 3 centuries, Enoch continued to have sons and daughters, living an ordinary human life while maintaining this unique bond. The account emphasizes the duration of this walk, highlighting the perseverance and depth of his commitment. This faithfulness stands in stark contrast to other stories from that era. And then comes the turning point, the event that sets Enoch apart from everyone else. Genesis 5, verse 24, simply states, "And he was no more, because God took him." This strikingly brief sentence marks the end of his earthly life in a very unique way. There is no mention of death, burial, or the end of his days, as there is for the other patriarchs. Enoch disappears, not due to an accident or illness, but through a direct act of God. This act of being taken by God is the direct consequence of his faithful walk. It's an event that surpasses ordinary human understanding and grants Enoch a unique destiny. Enoch's fate raises deep questions about his relationship with God. What does it mean for a person to walk with God so closely that they are taken up this way? This special relationship suggests an intimacy, a mutual trust that goes beyond the limits of ordinary life. Did Enoch find a constant divine presence, a special calling that shaped every moment of his life? The text doesn't say for sure, but his unique destiny hints that the answer is yes. The story doesn't mention any specific conflict or obstacle, only a faithfulness that leads to a total transformation of his existence. This story invites us to reflect on the power of a connection like that. Enoch's disappearance, because God took him, marks a fundamental break from the established cycle of life and death. For the other men in this genealogy, death is an unavoidable conclusion. But for Enoch, the cycle is interrupted. He finds an escape. This divine intervention is a recognition of his walk with God, a response to his faithfulness. The consequences of this event go far beyond Enoch's own story. It introduces a new possibility, a different dimension to the relationship between humanity and the divine. This suggests that a life with God can have an impact beyond what we consider the natural end of life on earth. Enoch's story is brief, but it reveals key truths about the human experience and the nature of the divine. On the human side, it shows the possibility of living a life of faithfulness and communion. This story isn't about fear or sin, but rather about the courage and persistence to stay on that path. On the spiritual side, Enoch's story points to a divine presence and call that exists outside of normal boundaries. It suggests God can intervene in unexpected ways to acknowledge a person's devotion. It's a testament to the relationship possible between the Creator and creation, a relationship that can lead to a complete transformation of one's life. Within the Bible, the story of Enoch holds a special place. It's set in the very earliest times, right after creation and the first generations of humanity, and before the great stories of the covenant. Its uniqueness sets the stage for a deeper understanding of the relationship between God and humankind. The story suggests that even in the early days of human history, a special kind of relationship was possible, one that could alter the normal course of events. Enoch thus becomes a symbolic figure. He's an example of a life lived in close communion with the divine, and a preview of how God can act in ways that go beyond human expectations. Even today, the story of Enoch invites us to reflect on our own life paths. The account encourages us to acknowledge our choices, our vulnerabilities, and the moments when we face significant decisions. Enoch's walk with God can be seen as a metaphor for our own search for meaning and for our desire to live by higher principles. It prompts us to think about our commitment to what we believe is right and true. This ancient story resonates with our modern experience. It reminds us that our lives are part of a much larger story where every single step matters. Ultimately, the phrase Enoch walked with God reminds us that through all our human choices, our weaknesses, and our challenges, a much larger story is always unfolding. Enoch's fate is a unique chapter in this story, but it's only one piece of a narrative that continues on through the ages. It invites us to look beyond the present moment and to recognize the continuity of this great story. Every life and every choice we make becomes part of this timeless account, encouraging us to pay attention to the next chapters of this biblical journey. We hope this look into the story of Enoch has been insightful. For more stories and deeper explorations of biblical passages, be sure to subscribe to New Pod.